Lawyers for Trump and New York clash at fraud trial. Be more respectful, Attorney General's counsel says. The fight between lawyers for Trump and the state took place during a private huddle with the judge. Former President Donald Trump's departure from the courtroom at his civil fraud trial has not lowered the temperature between his attorneys and those for the state of New York. On Thursday morning, Trump's lawyer and a counsel for New York State Attorney General Letitia James clashed loudly during a sidebar conference, proceedings typically kept out of earshot from the press and public. During sidebars, the judge convenes privately with attorneys for both sides, in order to keep everyone else in the courtroom from hearing the subjects under discussion. The conferences usually take place at one side of the bench, but the layout of New York's Supreme Court forced Justice Arthur Engoron to have the attorneys huddle in front of him, in what he calls a front bar. Though the spat took place dozens of feet from the press and public, one of the heated exchanges, between the Attorney General's counsel Colleen Faherty and Trump's attorney Christopher Kise, sharply reverberated across the ceremonial courthouse. "Be more respectful," Faherty said. "No," Kise countered. Faherty shot back, "That was rude." Law 360 later reported that sources said Kise made a dismissive comment when asked a question by Engoron's law clerk Allison Greenfield, commenting that he was speaking to the judge, not her. The legal news outlet added that Kise also questioned Faherty's intelligence, before apologizing. Greenfield and Faherty were the only women present at the sidebar conference. A source familiar with the conversation corroborated that account to the Messenger. The front bar huddle ended shortly after that flare-up. Kise, who also represents Trump in his federal criminal classified documents case playing out in South Florida, briskly left the room after that with the state's lead attorney Kevin Wallace, for reasons unknown. Both returned later in the proceedings. It is unclear what sparked the fight, or what was discussed during the private conference. But before proceedings began, the state's lawyers asked the judge to order a monitor to forensically examine the Trump Organization's electronic devices for likely omissions in their productions of ex-chief financial officer Allen Weisselberg's emails. Forbes accused Weisselberg of perjury based on emails the AG reportedly doesn't have, and the state wants to obtain any missing emails before deciding whether to recall the ex-CFO to the witness stand. A day earlier, Kise accused a different state's witness, real estate executive Doug Larson, of perjury, and then denied doing just that later in the day. "I think he needs to be advised of potential perjury," Kise said of Larson on Wednesday, in accusations that briefly derailed the day's proceedings. Faherty had accused Kise at the time of witness intimidation, in a remark that may have foreshadowed their later loggerheads. On Thursday, Kise denied to a reporter from Law 360 that a lawyer for the state had called him rude. Several journalists seated in the gallery heard the exchange. Well before Faherty and Kise's tête-à-tête, tensions had been high. On his first week of trial, Trump audibly muttered his displeasure from the defense table, threw up his hands, and frequently whispered and exchanged notes with his attorneys. The judge expressed frustration with Trump's attorneys, whom he sanctioned in the past, for lodging frequent objections on topics already established in the record. Lawyers for the state repeatedly accused defense counsel of performing for the press. On Wednesday, that pattern returned when the Attorney General's lawyers alerted the judge that Trump made audible comments during witness testimony. Engoron warned everyone in the courtroom to lower their voices, and Trump, who is under a narrow gag order restricting him from commenting on courtroom staff, left New York later that day without any further admonishment from the judge. Please subscribe, like and hit the notification button for more videos.